First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. The chair will entertain a motion. Thank you. Commissioner Snell and Commissioner Williams, any questions with respect to the agenda? All in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We're now up to public comment. Public comment is now open. Is there public comment? Any public comment? Last call for public comment. Public comment is now closed. Now on to committee items. The minutes are the first item. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Thank you, Commissioner Snell and Commissioner Williams. Any questions with respect to the minutes? All those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We're now up to the medical care facility financial report. I think Madam Director is here. Good to see you, Destiny.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I did ask Commissioner Pileski if I could be added to the monthly reporting for a period of time, just as we're going through some of this financial transition to keep you up to date. So I do have the November financials for you. And if you would like to advance to the next slide. And the next slide. So for November, revenue was $35,917 better than budget. Expenses were over budget by $190,550 with a net position of a loss of $154,633. Census was a major issue for the month of November. We were down 6.7 bed days compared to what we had budgeted for, although we had a higher paying revenue source, so we ended up okay on the revenue side. But with some of those changes, we also seen some increase in expenses having to do with wages, particularly around the acuity of our residents. We've had to add some additional staff, so we had some additional overtime in November. If you would like to advance to the next slide, here's an overview of 2024. Revenue for 2024 to date of the November financials was $23,913 positive. Expenses were $1,100,690 over budget, with a net position change from operations of $1,076,777. The net change position in non-operating income, this includes those two payments that we're going to have to make back to Medicaid that we said that we were going to book in the November financials. That's part of the reason I wanted to come here today, because that number is quite staggering. So I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page of what that number included. So that is the $3.6 million, along with the net change from operations, giving us a negative change in net position of $4,257,607. Census overall for the year was under budget by 3.62 bed days. Overall, from November to the beginning of the year, we had 436 admissions and 425 discharges. This is something that we've seen an increase from previous years in the number of admissions and discharges, which is part of what's creating some census volatility for us. If you proceed to the next slide, you can see the trend line of census over the entire year. Yes. Absolutely. Is that better? Okay. So the census trend line that I've included for you, you can see some of those irregularities with census where we'll see a big increase and then we'll see a drop off of census. That is one of the major things that we're working on in 2025 to try and even out and have quicker recoveries with those census increases. So what we're seeing is we're seeing a number of short-term residents come in for rehab, and most of them are needing to go home right about the same time. And so then we see this plummet in the census. Census 2025 to date, if you'd like to go to the next slide, you can see that we're on an upward trajectory there. We've made some changes with our admissions team since the beginning of the year. So as of today, our census is 176. We have 20 residents accepted at the hospital, and we're expecting 5 admissions today. So that will get us back to what we are looking at for a budgeted census number if all of those admissions come through today. A few other financial items on the next slide. So days cash on hand, when we take out that substantial amount for the Medicaid repayment, days cash on hand is estimated at 26 days. Again, that money, that amount does not include the money that's earmarked for repayment to Medicaid. It also doesn't include any money currently invested or MOE funds, which is approximately $4.5 million additional dollars. For 2025, we're projecting an MOE usage of $168,000 to cover the bond interest expense in November, which is typically our request. As of right now, we do not have an approved budget, so the DHHS board has requested some additional changes in our budget for 2025. We're meeting later today to discuss some more about that, and then we have our regular meeting at the end of the month. So any questions on any of that?
So, okay, Commissioner Snell, please, go ahead. Commissioner Snell, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I see that the AR days out remains above your goal, continues to be above your goal. And sometimes I think goals need to be adjusted. Maybe your goal should be 56 and not 54. I'm not sure, what your standard is there, but it seems like it's out of your control. It's not something in your control. So I might recommend or have you consider that.
Okay, thank you. We did change our goal from 40 days days out to 54 days out recently, like within the last 6 months. So we're working towards that 54-day goal. Some of that does have to do with some of the older items on our aging report that we'll be taking to our quarterly write-offs. But we do have a number of large accounts that we've discussed here in the past that we've been waiting to write off in hopes to be able to incur those from collections. So, but that is part of what's impacting that number, and we were looking at that as a possibility. Thank you.
Commissioner Williams, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we certainly have some financial challenges here. We've discussed those before, so I won't beat a dead horse. But I will ask on just a couple of questions just related to beds. How many beds total do you have?
194.
194. And on average, of that 194, how many are generally filled? You kind of pointed to that a little bit today, I think, but.
Yep, so for the 2024, the average was 180.63, so just about 181. However, we have seen upwards of 192 during that time, but again, some of that comes with the fluctuation. We'll see a really nice high census, and then we'll see that drop off as people go home after rehab, but averaging right around the 181 mark.
So of that 181, how many of those are long-term?
So about 75%.
75%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, you said that the board's meeting today to consider the budget then for 2025,
Yes.
okay? I wouldn't ask you for what the plan is, because I'm sure they're going to be considering that. It seems to me that population census remains kind of a critical point, right? I mean, the more people we have, the more revenue we get.
That's correct. And that's one of the reasons that we've been looking at our admissions processes and trying to modernize those to see if that might be able to assist in some of the challenges that we've had with census.
Okay. Chair Shotwell has a question.
Just an observation, and Destiny can explain this a little bit better, but can you explain to the board that while if we were to go, say we did 190 for 6 months, but if they were all Medicaid beds and we didn't have a proper mix of Medicare beds in there, we would still be in a tough financial situation because of the difference in what we're paid on a Medicare bed versus a Medicaid bed.
Yes. So typically on a Medicare resident, we're being paid between about $530 to $560 per resident per day. For a Medicaid resident, we are around $335 per resident per day. So part of what is important is finding the balance of how many short-term you can provide care for to help with the financial status of the facility, but at the same time, our mission is to care for the Medicaid residents of the county. So finding that balance to make sure that we can meet both needs is important.
You typically run about between 80 and 85% Medicaid, correct, of your beds occupied?
No, now we're running about 70 to 75% Medicaid as opposed to the 80, 85 that we used to.
And the Jackson County Medical Care Facility is the last best stop for a lot of these people that are on the Medicaid side, correct?
Well, that's what I believe.
Okay. Thank you.
So there aren't as many, well, we have more facilities here in town that are taking Medicaid, where in the past they have not been as open to Medicaid admissions. But that has been our bread and butter and our mission since the beginning. So that is very important to us. The other piece that I think is important to note is a lot of our long-term care or our Medicaid residents come to us through a short-term stay. So originally they may come from the hospital intending to only be there short-term, and after they come to our environment and they get comfortable, they realize, you know what, maybe this is better than going home and being by myself, and I have more supports here, and they qualify for Medicaid and are able to stay long-term. So maintaining that short-term census also helps us in the long run maintain our long-term census. Did that make sense the way I explained that?
So to Chair Shotwell's point, if all of our residents were Medicaid, we couldn't have enough bodies around to break even.
Unless we increased costs enough that we were able to incur a higher Medicaid rate from the state. But that means investing in higher expenses in order for the state to pay more, which is not really what the mission is. So we want to be fiscally responsible.
Well, I mean, spending money today to try and get it in 2 years doesn't make much sense if you're not in business a year from now.
I agree. But there are ways that other facilities are running less of a Medicare census because that's the tactic that they've used in the past. I don't think that we're in a place that that's something that we can consider, and I think that maintaining that Medicare census is important for our long-term sustainability.
Yeah. Okay. Any further questions? Commissioner Williams, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my one of the questions I was going to ask, Chair Shotwell kind of pointed to that, the Medicaid versus Medicare. And I had one other question for you. I guess I'll have to email it to you. I'm sorry. I thought I wrote it down,
okay.
but I'm not seeing it.
Mr. Overton has a comment?
Thank you. So I'm just trying to clarify, make sure I understand here. Our mission is to take care of Medicaid. We need a Medicaid-Medicare mix in order to remain financially viable, is what I understand. Thus, our millage, which is primarily to help us to recognize and offset our loss for strictly Medicaid, which is mission-driven, isn't enough to cover straight up Medicaid if we were just all Medicaid.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion to receive the report. Thank you, Commissioner Snell and Commissioner Willis, beg your pardon. All in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck on your meeting today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And now the Department on Aging. Madam Director is here.
And, good afternoon. Just to highlight a few things going on at the Department on Aging. Just an update, we did receive a donation from the Fraternal Order of Eagles for $1,000 at the end of December, and so we're pretty excited about that. We usually target those dollars towards activities. Sometimes with our painting classes, even our pool room, there's things that need to get done. So we're able to use those dollars to help support enrichment activities for the seniors to come in and enjoy the different things that we offer. We did our thank you letter and let them know of our plans for those funds. So this has been an ongoing support that we've received from them for several years. So we appreciate everything that they are able to offer to us. We're also gearing up the volunteer income tax program called VITA, and that's with Community Action Agency. With that, we're again a host site, so we allow use of 2 of our classrooms so that they can schedule appointments at the site for older adults that are needing assistance. The target income level for that is $67,000. So if you have anybody in the community that's needing help with their taxes, they can contact the 211 call center and they can look at scheduling an appointment. Again, our focus is on the older adults, so that's the target that we're trying to reach. It is a great opportunity for us to educate the community about all that we have to offer. So as people are coming in for their appointments, they're picking up literature about various educational programs, are able to see our newsletter, come in and see what we offer for lunches. So for us, it's a great opportunity to, again, engage with the caregivers in the community as well as the seniors. Just an update on some community education that we're working on. The health department has a new program focused on medications and how to basically keep things organized, know when to dispose of medications. And so they're going to be going around to our different nutrition sites and doing some education programs during January and February. And then also we're working with MSU Extension. They have a great program focused on cooking for one. This has been very popular with our older adults where they are able to learn different recipes, ways to shop better, and to really focus on good nutrition. So that's something that we're looking forward to. And in the next bi-monthly newsletter, we're going to have some more education focused on utility assistance and safety, because we were contacted by the Michigan Public Service Commission. They're trying to get out in the community and promote some more educational programs for older adults, and so we're going to be planning for that in our next newsletters. You'll see more updates as we move forward with that. With our Soups On for Seniors fundraiser, which is March 11th, there's a flyer attached about that. That's kind of starting to move forward. We actually have 2 sponsors already. So R.W. Mercer and Dillon Associates have sponsored the event so far. Looking for more sponsorships to come in. The Friends of Jackson Seniors also received a $1,500 anonymous donation from somebody that has attended the event in the past and wants to support the program, so we're pretty excited. We have 8 restaurants committed to be there on that night, and so we're looking for about 2 more spots. So we're doing some outreach in the community, and starting to have things come in for our silent auction. We're applying for different things online with the Friends of Jackson Seniors. Kroger's has a great opportunity to apply for sponsorships for things like a silent auction. So they've donated two $250 gift certificates that'll go into the silent auction. And the Friends board members are going around to different businesses and coming up with different ideas to put items into that auction. The auction last year raised almost $4,000, and we anticipate with the Tower Tour bridge certificate that'll be a big draw this year as well. We've had some people from out of the county area, even up north further in Michigan, that have contacted us about the Tower Tour certificates. The Friends of Jackson Seniors really feel like we've been supported by our community, our local residents that have come. And so for somebody to actually bid onto that Tower Tour certificate, they want to make sure that our local residents have that opportunity. So you do have to have a ticket and be at the event to participate in the auction. Yes, I'm so sorry. Yes, the Tower Tour certificates with Mackinac, so yes. And I also wanted to highlight just a little bit further down, it talks about on the report, referrals from the website. So when you go onto the Friends of Jackson Seniors website, you know, they always are promoting like Meals on Wheels. It's an opportunity for people to learn about eligibility for the program. But this is also a place where we receive referrals about our services. So people will send email communication to us and wonder about home delivered meals, home services. So over the last year in 2024, we had on average about 6 referrals a month. It was actually 68 referrals that came in. So on average, 6 referrals a month come through for people that are either a family member, seniors themselves, that are wondering about services. So that website that they're going to, that they also find out about the soups on, is a referral source for us. Occasionally we'll get somebody, probably when they're doing like a search on the internet, they may get mixed up and think we're Jackson, Mississippi. So we'll direct them to something called Elder Care Locator, which is a national number where you can find out about resources in your local area. They'll give you the number of where to go for a service that you're looking for where you reside. So just to kind of highlight some of those, you know, somebody might inquire about like meal assistance for a friend, a family member. We even get sometimes people might be looking for job opportunities on there. They want to volunteer for like Meals on Wheels. You know, how do I do that? So it is a great resource. So if you get a chance to look at their website, it's a pretty good website.
Questions for Danielle? Commissioner Snell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Danielle, always good to see you. Appreciate all you do. Soups On has been a great thing for you guys. I've been there for several times and encourage everyone to go if they can. $50 for a couple makes for a cheap night. Thanks.
Thanks, Ray. And March 11th from 5:30 to 7:30. And even if we members are not seniors, I'm sure we're welcome, right?
Anybody of any age can come.
Okay. Very good.
You just have to purchase a ticket.
Just have to purchase a ticket. Okay. Further questions for the Department on Aging? The chair will entertain a motion to receive the report. Thank you, Commissioner Snell and Commissioner Williams. All those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Danielle. And now the Health Department, Madam Director.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon. Oh, I'm clinking around here. I have a couple items on the agenda today. The first one is about the kindergarten oral health assessment program. As you know, I've been up here a few times talking about different times talking about this and how it has expanded over the last couple of years, adjusting our contract for Jackson County. At this point, I am asking that we enter into an agreement to accept the state funds for the kindergarten oral health assessment for the Barry Eaton Health Department. They have opted out for whatever reason, and the state came and asked us to take on that contract since we've been successful with Smiles on Wheels. What that entails is us receiving the 83 and some change $1,000 and following the same contract we do for Jackson County, where we take, or excuse me, where we retain 10% for administrative costs on our end, and then the rest of that goes to Smiles on Wheels to administer the program in Berry and Eaton County. It's been, we've been, super happy with the results that Smiles on Wheels has done for us in Jackson County and believe they can do the same through this contract in Berry and Eaton County.
So let me get this right. Barry and Eaton decided not to do this. We're going to do it on their behalf, take the funding for it. Not to mention the fact that we're kind of trotting on someone else's turf. Are there any hidden landmines that we should worry about in a situation like that?
There has been some, so without going into too much detail, there are some health departments across the county that we started and opted in the very first phase. So there's been phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 3 was just enacted in legislation that everyone is across the state, every child has to have an oral health assessment. So it had started as not mandated, and that where we started. Some health departments have called this an unfunded mandate because $83,000 is a very difficult, or ours, I think in Jackson is 88, but that is a very difficult amount to actually fund ourselves doing an assessment. We couldn't even hire a hygienist, for that. So with that, we have a successful partnership that is working, that we're able to serve this, the students or the kids in the community and get them that assessment before they enter kindergarten with our contract with Smiles on Wheels. So it behooves me to say that we would not share that contract or take on that contract for someone who's chose not to do it. So.
Commissioner Bear, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So these two counties, rather than administer their own contracts, they would rather pay you a 10% administrative fee and have you administer it. Do your staff have the time to administer their contracts as well as administering your own?
This is a very easy 10% that we take. Basically, we take the funding, and Smiles on Wheels invoices us quarterly, and they do all of the work. They set up the establishment with the schools and get in the schools. In our department for Jackson County, we're working alongside our hearing and vision, so there's a little more staff time. With this contract, actually, Smiles on Wheels does all of the work. So we take the 10%, and that administration fee is just for, our reporting to the state. Some of my deputy Holly, her time working on that, but we don't have a lot of staff time that has to go to this program because Smiles on Wheels is actually doing the work of the contract, of the requirements for the state.
Okay, your staff are not going to be overburdened. Thank you.
Commissioner Willis, please.
Yes, so do we have excuse me, do we have an idea of what the staff costs would be administratively?
We budget 10% for so we take 10% of that contract. So we'll take $8,300 and some odd change for that, for our part in accepting the funds, doing the grant work and that kind of thing. So yes, that $8,300 is extra funding now that we will have for our staff time for that. And like I said, our staff time is really very minimal. Even though we have to submit the reports and things like that to the state, they're feeding us that information. Like I said, they invoice us quarterly for their amount of the work that they're doing. And then our just time is very limited, minimal in the amount of work that we have to do on that. And that $8,300 is well more than enough to cover the time that we use.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Shotwell has a question.
Just an observation, and correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Smiles on Wheels was a voluntary program that was started first here in Jackson County by a service club and has slowly evolved into an operational system that handles all the billing and everything like that. we would not exceed the 90% that we're expending to the project, so there's not gonna be like, all of a sudden, it costs $90,000 to run this, and we've got to figure out how to make it up. That's not it when we get to the end of the funding. And I believe this also overlaps Springport and those school districts that are on our marginal edge, that are rural communities that are important to quite a few of our, to be politically, our legislators that are involved in those areas. So yes, I think it's an important program that we work with.
It's just, you know, I understand the concern about, you know, us reaching out into another county and doing, you know, work on behalf of a county, but I can, you know, honestly say that I have no concern about our staff's ability, keeping that 10%, that's enough to cover what we have to do, and that just in good faith and in good service and good stewardship, using that money, we have the ability and we have the connection in the relationship with Smiles on Wheels, that it seems almost a disservice to say no and make, you know, the state go look elsewhere. Because what happens when a health department or, you know, county decides not to do a service that that the state has mandated, is that the state will come in and make sure it happens. So this is essentially the way the state is seeking their first opportunity to make sure that happens, that those students there get their oral health assessments.
Commissioner Williams has a question.
Nothing further at this point. Thank you.
So I'll kind of circle back to my original concern that if this is such an easy program to administer and you make a little bit of money doing it, why isn't Barry and Eaton doing it?
I cannot answer that. The only thing I can say is, you know, I sent you a thread that the health officer there, that's a district health department that covers both counties, and they have just said no, or they have said no, they're not going to do it. But then in their statements to us and through the state, that they agree, that Colette, the health officer there, has agreed to send the money our way, and we will administer it on their behalf.
Commissioner Shotwell has an observation.
So when you create a program like this, you have a fixed capital cost that you have to maintain. The dentist and all of that type of operation. We already have that investment. All we're doing is filling out the rest of our hours in the year with helping another two counties able to administer a program where their population is lower than ours, and they don't have the initial resources to create it, that we had to create it, because again, like I said, our program was created by volunteers, not by us, and it was created back in the late 80s, and has been an operational program. At one time, all we gave them was office space in the county health building. So it has just they've been able to figure out a way to maximize successful dollars in the private sector.
So because I'm not very smart, the answer to my question is we're able to do it because we've already set up to do it. They prefer not to get set up to do it or spend the money, the initial investment to do it. That's an answer that sounds reasonable, and thank you for letting it finally make its way through my skull. Commissioner Willis has an observation.
My last question, I promise. So have they done this before?
Have Smiles on Wheels?
Has Berry County, those two
No,
counties?
this is a new, like in 2022 when we came, actually Smiles on Wheels, just to give them some credit on that and to, you know, accentuate what Commissioner Shotwell said, they were some of the leading forces, the director there were some of the leading forces on trying to get this COHA program implemented. You know, working for as long as they have in the community and seeing all of these kids in the schools, they have, you know, really advocated for the COHA program to begin with. So they've been there from the beginning. So again, like, they're already doing this. So they have the capacity to expand further with our funding.
Okay, so
But nothing is happening in Barry Eaton now. There are quite a few counties because 2025 was the first year that it actually became mandatory for all health departments to initiate it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So now that I have a better understanding of this entire picture here, I guess my only other thought would be any legal implications if there was some type of misstep in Barry or elsewhere. Would we then be responsible?
That becomes, through our contract, that becomes Smiles on Wheels is required through all of our contract language that was reviewed. This is the exact same contract that we use in Jackson. The only difference is it changes the name, that Smiles on Wheels will be implemented to Berry and Eaton County instead of Jackson County. They are required to have, their own liability insurance and all of that through our contract, so.
Okay, all right. Nothing further. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If there's nothing further, then the chair will entertain a motion to adopt the staff recommendation. Thank you, Commissioner Snell and Commissioner Williams. All those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And now on to the vehicle issue.
Thank you. We have 7 vehicles, or we have, 7 sanitarians who use vehicles with the health department. Over the last couple of years, we used to have a pool vehicle that we evaluated that was used for nurses or other people traveling to conferences. We eliminated that and turned that into our pool of vehicles. Over the course of time, we had a couple 2007 trucks that we've eliminated due to, one was eliminated due to being totaled. The other was eliminated with a blown transmission. So we're down 1 vehicle with, so we have 6 vehicles for our 7 sanitarians. The sanitarians, we evaluate their work in a few years. Actually, before I started, they were started doing take-home vehicles so they could start their work from home, go into the areas that they provide and not have to commute to the office to then put extra miles and waste their time driving back and forth to the office and bringing the car back and forth. So with that said, in our 2025 budget, we outlaid some capital costs. We actually outlaid $100,000 for purchase of 2 new vehicles. This bids came way under. We'd like to purchase 1 vehicle, will be the 7th vehicle, and then we are in the process of evaluating the current vehicles that we have to get rid of one of those vehicles that has a lot of high maintenance costs on it. It's just, seen its day. So request to purchase 2 Ford Escapes.
Questions for the Health Department? Commissioner Bear.
Thank you. Did I hear you correctly? The staff that are going to have these vehicles will take them home with them? Now, having worked for a company who had a lot of people out on construction sites, we provided them trucks, and they could take the truck home. They didn't have to come into the office every morning and pick up a truck. They worked it out such that they could use that same vehicle when they went grocery shopping, when they went to sports teams that evening. Are these vehicles going to be there for their constant use or just strictly for business?
Their vehicles are strictly for business. We follow the county policy for the county vehicle policy. I don't know what number it is, but that their vehicle use and take-home use is reviewed annually by myself and Mike Overton to be approved for their use. They are also on a Verizon monitoring system, so we know exactly where they are whenever they are for a couple reasons, safety, but then, to address that point that you just had. It also helps us when I'm evaluating who drives how much to determine, how we spread new vehicles out and who gets the new one and who gets the old ones. But no, we monitor that and we have systems in place to make sure that it is strictly to be used for work purposes
Okay,
only.
thank you for that explanation.
Chair will entertain, Vice Chair Kennedy, please.
Well, I'm going to speak because that's going to happen, so. There's going to be scrutiny coming up on take-home vehicles, just going to let you know. So of these vehicles that are going home, what is the purpose? What is the rationale that they need to be taken home, that they can't come into the office and take them from there?
A lot of our work for either our field or food sanitarians, we look at their locations. We don't have set designated locations, but when we're dividing up, say let's take food and the food establishments in our 4 sanitarians that work in that. When the month comes and they have to go and do all of their annual inspections, that gets divided up and they do look at locations. So we're efficiently using that. We're not sending someone that lives on the west side of the town or west side and going back and forth, that we're doing, something that makes sense in the most efficient way possible. So many of them start their day in the morning planning, figuring out who they're going to go to, figuring out if they have any complaints that they need to work into their schedule as well. And then they would drive from their home location instead of coming into the health department to switch vehicles and start. They will start right in that location. So say they live out in Parma, it's me. I drive and I go to, the Taco Bell in Spring Arbor, and then the McDonald's in Spring Arbor College, or whatever, whatever locations are in that vicinity. So we try. That's not always, that doesn't mean that we don't have anyone crossing the county or doing those things. We have complaints and different things like that we have to investigate, and that's on a rotating basis and who's available at that time. But back in, I think we actually made the decision back in 2020 when COVID started, and we got them the internet and technology capacity to start their day at home. They can start their day, plan that, and then again end their day, and they do things like then come home and do their final reports, and that they stop into the office when they need to for different things, but they are working from their cars often and working, driving back and forth to those locations. That's their primary duties.
Commissioner Snell, please.
Thank you. I'm kind of surprised we're not looking to replace both of the Ford Focuses, 2010s. They may not have a ton of miles on them, but the repairs on those are going to be expensive.
Yeah, and we first wanted to get, first of all, we budgeted $100,000 thinking that was going to get us 2 cars. We didn't know what the price was going to be, where we were going to end and how close. I think, with the cost that we have right now, we could go for a third. At the point where we were, initially thinking and putting this out to bid, I was really thinking we'd be around more like the $35,000, $40,000, and that $100,000 in capital wouldn't have given us that. So as we look at these, especially, I just started kind of digging into that Verizon and pulling out reports that shows me who's done what, and then we'll look at, how many people or how many drives they do, how many miles they do minus kind of that commute from their home, and then also looking at those repair costs. So I may come back to you with that, but it just wasn't in the foresight when we first, when we were
Okay.
planning 2 vehicles.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to move to approve the purchase of the 2 Ford Escorts.
Thank you. Is there support?
Or I'm sorry, Escapes.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Just one last question. Are the vehicles marked with Jackson County?
Yes, yep, they have
like seals or whatever?
the logo
health
on the
department?
side, yes, that's again, per county policy, we
I
have to
think
have
that's
those
our
on there.
policy.
Yep.
yeah. Okay. Thank you. All those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
And now on to the monthly report.
Lastly, I have a monthly report. Again, coming out of December, things in the community of health education and promotion are a little slower as school goes down and we're not in the schools because, we spend a lot of time in the schools. But that doesn't mean that our work stops and we start planning for that next semester and that next, work out there. We did complete some of our teen pregnancy prevention and EYT programming in the school in December. Thing to note on the opioid health education section, that is, we hired a new health educator in in October. So she's been in the position for a couple months now. It was good to see in her report this time that she's, getting out and learning the community and learning, what's needed in the community. We are really focusing on pushing to get into the schools for some primary prevention over the next year. Whether that happens this second half of the school year or not, I'm not sure. There's been some changes with our partnership with Henry Ford and their Drug-Free Jackson, some changes in their staffing there when the staffing changes, our connections with that, we have to make new connections, and then they're working with new staff as well. So what we don't want to do is create redundancy with any of the programming that's already being done in the school. We want to make sure we're either adding on or doing something different. So our community health numbers and everything are in there. We have a full functioning health education team that is doing some really cool things with trying to, reach new avenues. Last time we talked about working with the youth center. You heard Danielle talk about we're trying to work with, Department on Aging, places that we might not have been in the past. We want to reach out and be there again. I won't talk anymore about kindergarten oral health, but a couple other programs will be starting this year, not our fiscal year, but this new calendar year, and that's the SNAP Education and Marijuana program that we will get funding for soon. Outreach on there, we have our health educator for outreach who is working extremely diligently on getting out in our name out in the community. Last month, I talked to you about the Spotify ad that we were able to run. We have a cap of $500 on that ad. It's promoting childhood immunizations, flu, COVID and RSV immunizations, and I think the last I heard, we were at just over $200 and some thousand dollars $200, not thousand, $200, and we've been able to reach 13,107 unique individuals with that Spotify ad. So kind of a easy way to get a lot of reach and word out about getting immunizations. Also trying to work on, where people are. We have had continual social media presence on Facebook. Now we're hearing, a lot of our younger generations are using more Instagram, so we've created an Instagram account to get that information and get our messaging out to different areas. We continue to do our JTV. There's links on that in the actual document if you have any interest in listening. We try to highlight different programs and individuals over that monthly. Personal and preventative health, you'll see all the numbers for our sexual health clinic. Take a breath. Again, that Spotify advertising on there, let me see. Yeah, we spent less than $215,000 to reach 13,000 unique individuals with that. So, last thing.
You
Go ahead.
said $215.
Dollars.
Yes, okay.
$215 to reach 13,000 individuals. Yeah.
Just want to make sure we get that corrected. Okay, yeah.
We were really, that came from our health educator that we hired to look for those different opportunities because, most of ours that are scheduled in programming, they don't have that. They're so focused on the programming, no one has the time to kind of look outside the box on how we could reach. So it's been, worth it just in that and of itself, redesigning some of those the way we use our health educators to look outside the box. And last thing I want to point out is our environmental health. Again, I sit here, we do not have an environmental health director. I have been having some conversations with Holly Matthew and I and the environmental health team on how we go forward with that without a director. I'm doing the best I can to act as an interim, but to move that program and bring that program, the entire environmental health program, to exceed expectations and exceed and raise the bar on those, we need to either get a director in there, which isn't looking likely, or kind of change the way that program looks with oversight on that. The program is doing amazing, and amazing work continues, but again, as we go through accreditation, and how do we not just continue in status quo and raise the bar on that?
Commissioner Willis has a question.
On the environmental plan, does that include the food truck plan reviews too? How are we on those? The food truck?
We are, the last I checked with them, they are caught up. We are meeting our correspondence has to be within 30 days, and we are meeting and exceeding that. The problem with plan reviews in general is there's a lot of ebb and flow. There's a lot of, we get the information, it's not all complete, we send it back. So to look at that and say exactly where we are, I can tell you we are a lot better than we were, 6 to 9 months ago.
So a lot of that's also depending on the people that are trying to get those reviews,
Yes.
getting information back to you on time.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because our duty by statute is to respond within 30 days of receipt of a plan review, to respond with, we only have to respond, but we do a preliminary view overlook. We basically have to respond saying that we received it, but we do a preliminary look at it to say, right away I see X is missing. So we can send that back and get them going instead of waiting until we've done a full plan review, knowing something is missing that they could be working on.
Thank you.
I do want to mention that January is Radon Month. Thank you, Commissioner Shotwell, for wearing Radon Ranger shirt he's been telling me about for the last couple years. You know, we did have a segment on JTV that just recently, and we are trying to promote getting your homes radon tested. We have kits, the short-term kits, at the health department. We have them year-round, but we typically charge $11. We've dropped that charge during January, and we'll probably extend it to February to $5. So you can come pick up a radon test, hang it in your basement or the lowest floor of your space, and send that off to the state to get tested. Jackson is a high area for radon, and it's something you need to continually do. If you did it 20 years ago or 10 years ago, you should retest it again for $5. So,
Commissioner Bear, please.
Thank you. If someone gets a radon detector and they put it in their basement, then they bring it back and have it tested and it shows positive for radon, then what?
then we can recommend remediation. There's remediation steps and things that they can do that I don't know all the technicalities of it, but basically kind of suction the air through your house to vent that radon out of your house.
Are those optional or mandated?
Oh, it's optional, but it would be highly encouraged by the health department and the state. The state has resources as well, because that finding would actually come from the state. We're just an intermediary for those tests. Those tests, they send them to us so that we can get them out in the community. But if that test came back from the state, it would come back to the state. It would show up as a positive for us, and we would try to connect you with any resources that we have to get it. But it's not mandated.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was asked a couple of questions over the weekend, but I'm not sure if it's information that we track anymore. That's what I told the individual, but with the rise of COVID, do you have any numbers as to what that looks like in Jackson County?
I do, and we still report those. Those numbers are
do
still
we?
reportable.
Oh, okay. I was wondering.
I don't know if I have the link in here, because I think that link is just the immunization link, but it is on our website, and those numbers and dashboards are still tracked
On
there.
the website. Okay, thank you.
They are only updated. I don't even know what the level is now. At one point during the height of COVID, our numbers were updated daily, if not more than once a day. Now they're updated, monthly. So.
But monthly. Okay, yeah, I didn't think we were still tracking that, so that's good to know. So I'll pass them on just to take a look at the website. Thank you.
And then if that's something you're interested, I can make sure we put that. I can, put at least that link, at minimum the link into this, so you can.
If that link,
Sure.
the link would be fine. Thank you.
Commissioner Shotwell, please.
To make commissioners aware, the COVID dashboard that was used by the center is still available. The one we were using 4 years ago, the link is still there. It still shows worldwide COVID numbers and everything like that.
I would note, with respect to Arbor Village, you attended the meeting there in Spring Arbor Township last month.
Yep.
Thank you for being there. In the meantime, I received a message from the director of the Manufactured Home Association, who says that Arbor Village would like to meet with Representative Leitner and me, and I'm sure I would like to have the health department be present if that were to occur. I'll
Absolutely.
bet you dimes to donuts that Eagle extended their due date for whatever work they're supposed to get done.
Yeah, I have not received an update on that, but that was my takeaway from that they were going to extend.
I didn't see any enthusiasm on Eagle's part to actually hold them to account.
No.
So I'll be in touch with you and with Rep. Leitner's office to see whether we can't schedule something with Arbor Village at some convenient time. Chair will entertain a motion to receive the report. Thank you, Commissioner Snell and Commissioner Williams. All those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Director. Appreciate it. We move on now to the claims. Chair will entertain a motion to pay the claims. You should all have seen those by now. See Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Willis. Oh, Snell's first. I beg your pardon. I just heard it from kind of over that way. All those in favor of paying the claims will please say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you. Please take note of other minutes, the VA minutes and the DHHS board minutes. Reporting schedule for next month. Department on Aging, Health Department, Medical Care Facility, and Lifeways quarterly. We're up to public comment. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Last call for public comment. Public comment is now closed. Commissioner comments? Are there any commissioner comments? Hearing none, we're adjourned to the call of the chair. Thank you.